Hey guys, so finally last night I checked out It Chapter 2. In this movie, 27 years after the events of It Chapter 1, all of the losers are not in Derry anymore except for Mike, who stays behind and continues to remember all the horrible things Pennywise or It has done. As Pennywise's rampage starts again, he calls the losers back to finish it once and for all. Now, saying I was excited for this movie is an understatement. It's felt like forever. I mean, so much so that I guess the only thing I could do was make that impressions video, which actually ended up doing pretty well, so I'm proud of that, but I was like going insane. I was so excited. I actually reviewed It Chapter 1 in 2017 when it came out, and that's still on my channel. You can watch that as well if you want. But like I said in that review, I read the book before watching that movie, and it's probably one of my favorite books of all time, if not my favorite. I absolutely love it. I mean, there is some weird stuff in it, and you know, I heard a lot of things about Stephen King being on drugs while he was writing it and whatever, but a lot of it is really brilliant, and I absolutely fell in love with the characters from that book. So when I saw It Chapter 1 in theaters, it became my favorite movie of 2017 just because it really captured the magic of that book and the kids aspect of it. So before It Chapter 2, I reread it a bit, like I got to about the halfway point in the book, and I actually watched the miniseries, which I had seen a lot of scenes from, but never really the full thing, and I didn't think it was very good, but I understand why it does have this nostalgic place in people's hearts, especially since Tim Curry is really good in that miniseries as Pennywise. The thing that really amazed me about It Chapter 1 was the fact that Tim Curry in the miniseries had held such a nostalgic place in people's memory, and he'd been this sort of pop culture icon as Pennywise, and the fact that Bill Skarsgård surpassed him to those people who felt so nostalgic towards the miniseries is just amazing. I mean, Bill Skarsgård, he should have been like nominated for an Oscar, but of course he wasn't. You know, the Oscars don't really nominate performances from those kinds of films. But nevertheless, he was fantastic in the first movie, and I absolutely love the relationship between the kids as well, and the performances in that movie as well as a whole. Before I saw It Chapter 2, the trailers really did hype me up. There was a lot going on in them, and I just could not wait. The cast as well looked like they would do a good job. So because of all of that, and because I'm such a diehard fan of this storyline, and on top of that, It Chapter 1 was my favorite movie of 2017, and probably like in my top 30 of all time. When 2019 started, my most anticipated of the year was not Endgame or Star Wars. It was this movie. It was It Chapter 2. And waiting 2 years was really not easy. I kept looking for as much news about this movie as I could prior to watching it, and the last couple weeks were kind of torturous. I was just way too excited, and rereading the book was like all I could do to fill that void, but finally, it's here. And now I can talk about it without spoiling anything, of course, so without further ado, it's time to find out if they stuck the landing. Now, there's going to be quite a few unpopular opinions, it seems like, in this video. There was a lot of recurring things I heard people say in many reviews that I seem to have a different opinion on. This movie was very divisive for some reason, but let's start with the negatives first. Since 2017, the kid actors have grown up a little bit, and the de-aging that was done on some of the kids in the flashback sequences, it was pretty noticeable, I'm not gonna lie, but after a while I kinda got used to it, and it didn't really bother me too much, but I could definitely tell. Also, although I think the horror was handled quite well, there was a bit too many jump scares, and that did bother me a bit, and it was even more than the first one. The first one, I wasn't really bothered by the amount of jump scares, and they were really, really well handled. In this movie, it was kind of overused. And another thing was there was also a little bit of an overuse of CGI, and in a couple scenes, I'm not gonna lie, it didn't look too good. Some of it did, but not all of it. But that's it. That's all my negatives. As I said, it's divisive. I don't really get that. I loved this movie. Let's get into the positives. The runtime is what everyone's complaining about. Everyone's saying it's too long, the pacing suffers, it should not have been as long as it was, but I never was bored. In fact, I thought it needed to be as long as it was. Sure, maybe a couple things got slightly repetitive, but I thought the runtime was a great way to establish every single character in the movie. The cast is fantastic. Some of the best casting I've seen in a while. They all look very much like the kids from the first one, and they have great chemistry just like the kids from the first one. The performances as well by each and every individual in this movie is great. Each character is important, and with that runtime, they take their time with each one, and every single main character has a moment to shine. Now, everyone is talking about Bill Hader. He is amazing, and he probably has the best arc in the movie. I don't really agree with the fact that he should be nominated for an Oscar. In fact, I don't think he had the best performance in the movie. My favorite performance in the movie was probably that of James McAvoy. I thought he had a better performance, although Bill Hader had the best arc. But if Bill Hader gets nominated, I won't be mad about that, because he was still really good, and that would show a kind of shift in what the Oscars are nominating, and that would be nice to see. James Ransone as Eddie was also fantastic. He really captured what Jack Dylan Grazer did with that character in the first one. The way he was always like talking really fast and doing these quick movements, it was really, really good. I can tell he just looked at Jack Dylan Grazer in the first one and he was like, yeah, I'm just gonna do that. And I'm pretty sure he said that in an interview as well. But that's pretty cool. He was really good at that. Jessica Chastain as Beverly, as well as Ben, played amazingly by Jay Ryan. They're also really great, and there's a lot to their characters as well in this movie that's added from the first one. Now, the characters of Stanley and Mike were pushed to the background in It Chapter 1. So I was curious to see how they would be in this movie. And there's a lot more added to them, I'm not gonna lie. I really, really loved the way that Isaiah Mustafa and Andy Bean portrayed these characters. Also, Teach Grant as Henry Bowers, really menacing. I can't say anything about, his character in this movie, but he's really good. Look forward to that. And the biggest standout here, Bill Skarsgard as Pennywise. Now, I've already said this, he's a master. He was born to play Pennywise. He was fantastic in Chapter 1, and he is fantastic in Chapter 2. Maybe even a little bit better, because we get a lot more of him in this movie than in the first one. Bill Skarsgard is really committed to this role, and I can tell he is, because apparently he went into a dark place after filming these two movies, and I can see why. Now, even though I do like It Chapter 1 more, in my opinion, this movie was scarier than the first one, and it was also funnier than the first one. This was one of the funniest movies of the year. Mostly the comedy coming from Bill Hader and James Ransone. But this movie was also pretty scary, I'm not gonna lie. It didn't terrify me, but there was a few genuinely good scenes, especially the beginning scene, which is super dark, and I don't think I'll be able to get that out of my memory anytime soon. Also, what I love is this movie has this really epic feel to it, and I felt like if I watched It Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 together, it would feel like I've been watching a TV show for 10 years, and that's exactly how I felt while reading the book. This is a great companion piece to the first one as well. And it's also going to make people realize with the flashback sequences and stuff that there's more to this storyline than just killing a clown and what a clown's doing to terrorize all these people. There's so much depth with these characters, and you get so invested in their lives and their relationship with each other, and the chemistry here is great in both movies. And Chapter 2 also continues to have great music, just like the first one, that can be really unsettling sometimes and really heartwarming at other times. And even though at times they did overuse CGI in certain scenes, It Chapter 2 looks visually stunning, especially with a lot of stuff that happened in the final battle. My eyes were just like glued to the screen. But overall, It Chapter 2 is a fantastic conclusion to this storyline. I did have a couple issues, but it captures the amazing feel of the book, and it takes its time with its characters. I think it's scarier than the first one, and it has amazing performances. The pacing flowed really well, the music was great, and if you want to have another Endgame-like experience and you're a big fan of the storyline, or even just of the first movie, I think you'll be more than satisfied. It Chapter 2 is great, and I'm going to give it an A-. Yeah, I don't really side with a lot of the critics on this one. I don't know, I guess it's just not for everybody, but I loved it. Let me know what you thought. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe, like, and share. I'd really appreciate it if you did. And as always, have a great day. Peace out.